Hello and welcome to Newsmax TV. I'm John Bachman. Joining us right now from Washington, D.C. is Senator Lindsey Graham of South Carolina, a member of the Senate Appropriations, Armed Services, Budget, and Judiciary Committee. Senator, thanks for being with us.
Hey, glad to be with you.
All right, there's a lot to talk about, of course, so let's get started. I want to begin by talking to you about this decision yesterday by the Supreme Court striking down that key provision of the Voting Rights Act of 1965. And that, of course, sets up what could be a very, very nasty battle in Congress about what to do and which districts and which states should be, looked at more closely. Given what's going on and the divisiveness in the Congress right now, what level of confidence do you have in your colleagues on solving this problem?
Oh, I don't have a whole lot of confidence in the Congress like most people, but the Supreme Court basically did the right thing. Over the last 40, 50 years, South Carolina has shown that we can hold fair elections, and every person in South Carolina is going to have a right to vote if they're eligible and qualified. And I thought the Supreme Court decision basically recognized progress. And the Voting Rights Act of 1965 had a place, had a reason to exist. But today, the court put South Carolina on the same level of standing with our sister states. And I appreciate the recognition by the court of the progress we've made. And I promise, as a senator from South Carolina, to make sure that we continue our progress toward equal rights.
And your state has elected the only African-American member of the, he was appointed that position, but he still serves in the Senate and is the front runner for that race again.
And he will be elected. When Tim was appointed by Governor Haley to take over for Jim DeMint, it was in the State House, and I said then, if these walls could talk, it's such a big advancement for our state. Tim is such a great guy, a good conservative, and he's going to win overwhelmingly, and that speaks for itself as to where South Carolina, how far we've come. Like every other place, we've got a ways to go, but I'm proud of my state.
And also on this issue, it's key to remember that the Supreme Court struck down that law in Arizona, which is not traditionally one of these areas that has been subject to the Voting Rights Act, at least that section. Let's also move on. I want to talk about the president's speech yesterday on the Keystone, well, not on the Keystone Pipeline, but on the environment, on carbon emissions, on climate change. Some of the early reporting leading up to the president's speech said that he wasn't going to mention the Keystone XL Pipeline. Were you at least surprised to hear him bring it up?
Yeah, I really was. I've been to the oil sands in Canada. I've actually been there, and I've seen how they extract the oil from the oil sands region. And this Keystone Pipeline would create thousands of jobs for American workers at a time when we need jobs. Somebody's going to buy the oil from Canada. They're either going to sell it to us or sell it to the Chinese or some other person, some other group. And so the oil product will be sold. It will go into the atmosphere. The only question is, will we buy it? And I think we should buy the oil from our neighbor in Canada. It's just less oil to buy from the Mideast, and it would create thousands of jobs. So when the president says, I got to be assured that it would be carbon neutral, well, I can assure you, Mr. President, it will be, because if we don't buy it, the Canadians will sell it to somebody else. This is
he mentioned that about being carbon neutral, and a lot of folks are reading into this saying that this was really about coal still being one of the coal-fired power plants being one of the biggest contributors to carbon gas emissions in this country. Do you think the president may have been indirectly negotiating with the GOP through this speech, saying, hey, maybe you give me some more room on a cap and trade bill, something like that, and I'll be a little more bit flexible on the Keystone Pipeline?
There's no negotiations here. This is an easy thing to do. You either build a pipeline or you don't. And there are Democrats in the Senate who want to build a pipeline. We'll run over them if we have to, quite frankly. I'll just be honest with you. The public support for building the pipeline is huge. The carbon content from oil sands product is slightly higher than the carbon content coming from Mideast sweet crude, no higher than what's found off the coast of California. The danger that we face as a nation is not higher carbon content from Canadian oil, it's sending our money overseas to buy oil from people who hate our guts. This is
and
not
when you say
you'll
run over the president, Senator, what do you mean by that?
I think we're going to run him over. I think the Congress is going to take this matter up. I hope so. We'd be crazy if we don't. I don't know why in the world the Republicans in the House and Republicans in the Congress wouldn't just push one bill after another demanding that the pipeline be built, and let our Democratic colleagues vote as they wish. To me, this should be full speed ahead for the Republican Party to make sure that pipeline's built before the oil is sold to China. Again, we're buying oil from our friend, not our enemy. We're not sending money overseas, we're sending it to Canada, and they're our biggest trading partner. This is just a no-brainer.
Now, I'm a little confused. Is there anything, in this that guarantees that oil will be sold to the United States? Or, if China wants to pay more for that tar sands oil,
once you build the pipeline, it comes down here. Now, it'll go on the world market, but it's a source of oil that makes us more energy independent. Getting the product through the pipeline, make sure it comes to the United States. Building the pipeline creates jobs, thousands of jobs throughout the United States. So having that oil product come to the United States is good for our economy. And again, if it doesn't come to us through a pipeline, it's going to go to China through a pipeline out west and shipped overseas. So yes, having the oil come to the United States is very much in our national interest.
All right, and I also want to talk about what's going on with Edward Snowden as well, and this kind of relates to our last topic. The president's speech was not on a lot of front pages of newspapers around the country, nor did it lead any of the network newscasts last night, which might speak to the fact that the president's influence is waning a little bit, and I think public opinion polling would speak to that as well. And we've also seen, of course, this very public and kind of embarrassing deal with Snowden, who is in the Russian airport, in the Moscow airport, Putin refusing to honor the extradition order, and also China kind of thumbing its nose at the United States about all of this. What do you think that says about the president's influence at home and abroad?
Nobody cares abroad what Barack Obama thinks as President of the United States. Pretty clear to me that the influence he has throughout the world is almost non-existent. And that's sad for the country, because we're the leading voice of freedom, and the Chinese and the Russians feel absolutely no pushback by defying the rule of law. This man has been indicted for some serious crimes in the United States. He needs to be brought back and brought to justice. What he did, he's not a hero. In my opinion, he's a felon, maybe a traitor. I don't know if espionage is the right charge, but I can tell you this. What he did to our national security is devastating. The Chief of Staff of the Army said today that these leaks of the surveillance program has put our men and women in uniform at risk. And what were we trying to do? We're trying to monitor terrorist phone calls and terrorist emails, and if they're connected to the United States, you have to get a warrant to listen in, which I think is eminently reasonable. I think we're at war. And what Snowden did is jeopardized our ability to defend ourselves against radical Islam. But the fact that China would send him to Russia after we revoke his passport says all you need to know about what China thinks about us. And Putin, he's a bully. And it's just sad to see our country fall so far.
Yeah, and a lot of people would agree with you on that topic as well. And, I also want to talk about immigration. You've been working very hard on this. You have said that this immigration bill, including this new amendment, which some folks are calling the border surge, makes this bill better for our economy, better for our nation, better for our nation's future as well. Still looking at some serious headwinds, though, as the House considers a version of an immigration bill as well. What do how optimistic are you about something getting done? I know you guys are set to pass this bill shortly here, but what are you looking for and what are you hoping for from the House side?
Well, just to speak on the issue, pass a version of immigration reform. Certainly doesn't have to be the Senate bill. I respect my House colleagues, but the nation needs to fix a broken immigration system. But in this bill, I would never dream we would get what we did on the border. We're doubling the size of the Border Patrol. Well, there'll be 40,000 Border Patrol agents deployed under this bill, doubling the 20,000 we already have, 700 miles of fence, $4 billion of technology, including drones, sensors, and radars. All of this has to be in place before people can get green cards. So when people say, well, there will be no border security, well, if there's not border security, there'll be no green cards. I can assure you, tying these two together will make sure that this new border security amendment is implemented. We have almost militarized the border. To those who say that our border is not secure, my answer is it will be if we pass this bill into law. And as to the other parts of the bill, legal immigration is the heart and soul of our economy. We're having 80 million baby boomers retire in the next 40 years. Who's going to replace them? we're not producing enough native-born workers, so we need a good legal immigration system. And this bill really dramatically increases high-tech H-1B visas that will help our economy. It will help the construction trades. It will help the service industry by making more legal immigration available to us so people won't have to cheat. As to the 11 million, it's a practical solution. I think illegal immigration is the worst thing you could do to the American worker. The American worker suffers mightily when an illegal immigrant comes to this country and gets paid under the table. I want these people out of the shadows, go through a criminal background check. If you're a felon or committed multiple misdemeanors, you're not eligible to stay. But I want you out of the shadows, and for a 10-year wait, you have to prove for 10 years that you're in good standing before you can even apply for a green card. You have to pay fines, you have to learn the English language before you get a green card. So at the end of the day, I think it's a practical, tough solution to 11 million, and we won't have a third wave if we pass this bill. So I hope the House will do something and we can conference the bill.
Now, you mentioned the requirement to learn English. I think one of your colleagues, Deb Fisher, proposed that as an amendment, making that English language requirement mandatory. I take it you're in favor of that as well?
Yeah, I mean, you can't succeed in America unless you learn the English language. This bill requires people to enroll in English classes, and to become a citizen, you have to pass a naturalization test. So there's a similar requirement to get on the pathway to citizenship. You have to pay back taxes, you have to pay fines. You can't cut in the line. When the 10-year period is up, you get a green card at the end of the line of the country you came from. So people from Mexico, it could be 15 or 20 years before you ever get a green card. But at the end of the day, I think learning the English language is a requirement, really, quite frankly, to do well in America.
And a lot of folks argue that would also help bring these folks out of the shadows as well. And Senator, real quickly, last topic, I want to give you an opportunity to comment on this. It's your prerogative just because it just happened. I'm reading from the Associated Press now, just came over my cell phone, that they have struck down the Federal Defense of Marriage Act, striking down that the Supreme Court did that. I wanted to get your take and what your reaction was to this news.
Well, I just heard it as you spoke to me. I'm a little bit surprised. I think the federal government has the right to define marriage. The Defense of Marriage Act basically says that one state is not bound by the dictates of another, that when it comes to defining the relationship called marriage, South Carolina can do it one way, California can do it another, and at the federal level, we would not recognize same-sex couples' benefits. So if the court has struck that down, I'm very disappointed, but I'll have to look at the decision and give you a better answer, but very disappointed.
I do appreciate your initial reaction on it.
Yeah, the main thing is that something like marriage and the bedrock of society should be decided by the population through the political process, not by unelected judges. I think this is an example of where something this fundamental to our society should be left in the hands of the people through their elected representatives. But I haven't read the decision yet, but we will, again, this is a case where the people have been denied the ability to chart their own destiny by the court. But having said that, I respect the court's decision, whatever it is.
Yeah, and just to clarify, as we're doing this, we were answering this is just now happening. Senator Graham, a lot more to read into on specifically what this might mean
I don't know. It
may
not, right. I'm just giving you an initial reaction to the idea they struck down the statute. Again, defining marriage, I think, should be done through the political process, but I'll read the opinion and give you a more detailed answer later.
Yeah, certainly more to come on this. Senator Lindsey Graham, I know we heard the bell as well. You probably got to go vote. We appreciate you talking to us. Have a great day, sir.
Thank you very much.